Megan Huntsman was born on February 27 in 1975. She attended Pleasant Grove High School where she began seeing Darren West. Darren West graduated from Pleasant Grove High School and served in the Marine Reserves. He attended Utah Community College. When she found out she was pregnant, the two married. The couple would go on to have a total of 3 daughters, Darian, JC, and Sawyer. The family moved to 530 East, 200 North in the town of Pleasant Grove in Utah. The town is about 35 miles from Salt Lake City, Utah. The home was owned by West's parents, Stephen and Diane West. At some point during their marriage, Darren and Megan began using methamphetamines. Darren West began manufacturing methamphetamines. In 2005, federal drug enforcement officers began investigating him on charges of mail ordering methamphetamine ingredients. Court documents show that Megan Huntsman allowed authorities to look through the residence. Investigators located drugs and drug-making paraphernalia in the garage. He was arrested and charged with possessing chemicals intended to be used in manufacturing methamphetamine. He pled guilty, and was sentenced to 9 years in federal prison. While West was serving his time in federal prison, his mother allowed Megan to stay in her home with her daughters as long as she stayed faithful to her husband. However, in 2011 she was caught having an affair with a co-worker and Darren's mother kicked her out. She allowed the daughters to stay. An aunt, Mary West, moved in to take care of the girls. Huntsman moved in with her mother in West Valley City for a while. Eventually she moved in with her boyfriend at Meadowbrook Village Mobile Home Park at 1300 West and 3900 South. In March of 2012, Huntsman's father committed suicide after a history of chronic, painful hip and leg problems. Her mother fought cancer, and her sister suffered from dangerous complications from diabetes. Later in 2012, Huntsman's drinking was so bad her mother intervened, and got her to enter a treatment program. After being released from prison in 2014, Darren West was cleaning the garage so he could move out of the halfway house and back into his home with his daughters. Some members of his family, including his daughters, were assisting him with the cleaning. His youngest daughter located a small taped-up box with a strong chemical smell coming from it. When she opened it, she found a dead baby. West called his wife and she admitted to him that it was her baby. West immediately called police. Investigators began meticulously going through the garage for evidence while Megan Huntsman was being interviewed. At first, she told authorities that the baby was stillborn. She claimed she delivered the baby not long after her husband went to prison. She said she hid the baby's body because she didn't know what to do. As officers searched the garage, they found more boxes. Each box was taped shut with electrical tape. Inside each box, wrapped in layers of plastic and blankets, they found more dead babies, a total of 7 dead babies. All were covered in iodine to hide the odor. During questioning, Huntsman admitted to police that she gave birth to 7 babies between 1996 and 2006. She told the detectives that 6 were born alive, and she strangled them by pressing her fingers into their throats until they died. She showed no emotion as she described the horrific details. She said that each baby only lived about 2 minutes after birth. Huntsman later told police that she wanted to move the bodies, but was scared she would get caught. When authorities asked Huntsman why she murdered her babies but not the 3 older children, she told them she didn't start using meth until after the birth of her second child, and by the time she was pregnant with the third, people knew she was pregnant, so she had to keep that baby. After that, each pregnancy she kept hidden from everyone. She said it was either the drugs and alcohol or the babies, she couldn't afford both. Huntsman told police that during one birth, her husband was watching television with his brother and sister-in-law when she told them she was going to take a bath and go to sleep. Instead she gave birth, and killed the baby. On April 13 in 2014, Megan Huntsman was booked into the Utah County Jail and charged with 6 counts of murder. Authorities believe the 7th child was stillborn. Police do not believe Darren West was involved in the murders. He told police that during the years in question he was so high on methamphetamines, cocaine, and marijuana that he had no idea. He said he did know of 2 pregnancies during the 10-year period in question, but she told him she miscarried. The judge set bail at $6 million, one for each infant murdered. Captain Michael Roberts said the case has been emotionally draining and upsetting to investigators. He was at the home when the bodies were discovered. My personal reaction? Just shocked. Couldn't believe it. The other officers felt the same, the 19-year police veteran said. They got more and more shocked each box they opened, Roberts said. Investigators said that Megan Huntsman would conceal her pregnancies by wearing baggy clothes. After giving birth, she would take the newborns in her hands, then press on their necks with her thumbs until the baby died. Then she would wrap them in towels or clothes, wrap them in plastic bags, and place them in cardboard boxes. The boxes would then be stacked in the garage with clothes, old toys, and holiday decorations. Utah investigators examined DNA from the babies to verify if West is the father. Forensic anthropologists were able to determine the sex of each baby. A total of 5 girls, and 2 boys. All 7 babies were determined to be full-term. Pleasant Grove's mayor, Mike Daniels, said in an interview, "It shocks the system to think that something this horrific can happen next door and that you are completely unaware of it, and that it went on for so long. It is a rude awakening that strange things and heinous crimes can happen anywhere." Philip Resnick, psychiatry professor at Case Western Reserve University, termed this type of killing as multiple neonaticide. It's the killing of a child within the first 24 hours of life. Resnick says that multiple neonaticides are extremely rare, and even more rare among married women. Resnick said neonaticides are not usually associated with psychiatric problems. He said usually it's social issues, such as the fear of being stigmatized, like having a child outside of marriage. However, in some cases, neonaticides are motivated by the need to limit resources. The mother is doing this for family size control. A British psychologist specializing in family psychology, Sandra Wheatley, states that it's a conscious decision to kill a child. She said, "The fact is, when somebody decides to end the life of a child, whether they are just born, or whether they have been around for longer, that is still a decision they weigh up, with pros and cons." She continued, "It is very hard for most of us to understand how somebody could weigh up the evidence, and come up on the side of death in that scenario, and consider that as the best outcome to act upon." In France in 2010, 45-year-old Dominique Cotres confessed to murdering 8 of her newborn babies, and hiding their bodies in shoeboxes in the home she shared with her husband. In both cases, the husband discovered the bodies of the babies in shoeboxes in the garage, said Wheatley, who followed the case in France closely, and is following the Utah case as well. To put the bodies in the garage, which is quite a male domain, makes the bodies quite vulnerable to find. Why would she not bury them? She added, "You don't need a degree in psychology to work out that something in their thought process was not logical. In order to think that this could be a way to behave, you have got to say that somewhere in there, they were not quite well." On February 12 in 2015, Huntsman pled guilty to all charges. She claimed she murdered her babies due to a drug and alcohol addiction as well as depression, and an abusive marriage. Neighbors, friends and relatives all said they never realized Megan Huntsman had been pregnant. They all believed her weight just fluctuated throughout the years. "We are still in the dark about most of this stuff," said her uncle, Larry Huntsman, speaking publicly for the first time. "We have no idea why she did this. How do you go through that many pregnancies without anyone knowing it? In court, Huntsman's sister read letters from her daughters. Her youngest daughter described being shocked and heartbroken by her mother's actions. "This is not the mom I know," her letter reads. "The mom I know was the one who had dinner for us every night, a clean house, and was a loving mother. Nobody could guess my mom would do anything like this." Her sister, Jamie Huntsman, addressed the court saying, "My sister is not a monster. She's not evil. From what I understand, she was scared." Megan Huntsman's attorney read her statement to the court. "Depression and alcohol took hold of me the same way drugs did," she said. "I cannot give a reasonable answer why I was capable of such a sick and heinous crime. I held my secret for 18 years. In some small way, I wanted to help them avoid the terrible life I would have given them. I deprived my little babies of the opportunity of life. Those babies aren't coming back, and they never will because of my actions." Despite her family's testimony, prosecutors said that there was no way to deny that Megan Huntsman had carefully plotted to kill each of the 6 children without any of her family noticing, cleaning up all the evidence before they could see. "These were very cold and calculated killings," Bowman said. "She was a woman who was remarkably unbelievable, and incredibly indifferent. She smothered or strangled 6 of her own flesh and blood." In 2001, a law was passed in Utah that allows people who have a child but aren't prepared to care for it to drop the child off with no questions asked, and no criminal liability. It's called the Safe Haven Law. Judge Derald McDade sentenced Megan Huntsman to the maximum allowed under law, 30 years to life in prison. As he handed down the sentence, McDade explained that he was the judge who signed the search warrant on the day the babies were found. At that time, he had quietly hoped he wouldn't have to be the one to be assigned the troubling case. "I really thought I had seen it all until this case," McDade said. "It shocked me then and it shocks me now." Her first parole hearing will be in 2064, when she will be 89 years old. Megan Huntsman murdered her own babies, not once or twice, but at least 6 times, then hid their bodies in the family's garage. Each baby came into this world and within the first few minutes of life were murdered by the one person who should protect them the most, their own mother. She chose drugs over her own flesh and blood. These murders were unnecessary with the Safe Haven Law that went into effect at least 5 years before she murdered her first baby. She could have dropped each baby off at designated locations without any repercussions. She was cruel and heartless. May all 7 babies in this case rest in peace. That concludes this episode. Keep your eye out for the next volume, coming soon. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.
Want to help support the channel you love, and get something in return? Simply purchase some Elizabeth's Chronicles merch. We have coffee mugs, t-shirts, sweatshirts, cozy blankets, beach towels, phone covers and more. Use the coupon code EC10OFF4U and get 10% off your order. The link to order is in the description area below this video. Thanks for helping Elizabeth's Chronicles continue to make the videos you love.